Well, the floor is consistent.
Depends on that grandma's in the shower.
Okay, we'll get back at it here. Jacob provided us with this proposed budget. As a reminder, we are working with a tax levy of $11.90, and we're stuck with that based on our previous motions today. And the proposed budget has a general fund shortfall of $183,967. So we got to, and that's based off of what came out of the committee meetings. So again, nothing's final in those numbers, but that's what the committees were suggesting we cut to start with. So, do you know what the budget shortfall was prior to committee meetings?
No, I don't.
No, much higher. I'll just say much higher, right? So.
Well, didn't you at a previous meeting say 300?
I had 253 from
Yeah.
January 13th, but
Yeah.
that was after. That was after.
When we had done most of the committee meetings, I think we were down to finance. That's where we were at. And then we made a difference there. Not to other committees that had gone through, but the ones we looked at.
Okay. So give us some direction here, Jacob. Where do you want us to start?
I'm gonna start off with just a little bit of a summary. So if you want to turn to page 10, I just want to talk a little bit about tax revenue and that side of it before we get into the expense side of it. So page 10 kind of talks about rollbacks for our residential, commercial, and multi-residential. Essentially, those are the three classifications for taxing that we have. The residential, the state sets that rollback factor. So on a 100,000 valuation, each year the state says how much of that we can tax on. So for fiscal year 22, it was 56.41%. And so for fiscal year 23, that went down to 54.13%. So as a total valuation, we're not able to tax as much of it as we were in the previous year. So if you look at total valuation citywide on the residential side, they increased by almost 9% for fiscal year 23. But taxable, we can only tax around 4.5% more. On the commercial, if you look back, it used to be where we could tax up to 100% of the valuation. Now the state's rolled that back to 90%. And when the state first rolled that back, they did a backfill where the state would fill in the 10% that we couldn't tax. Last year, the state legislator started phasing that out. So it's phased out over 8 years for us. So last year we received, what is it? 250-some thousand, just over 250,000. This year we're only getting 220,000.
Which is what percent?
For
The back, that's still the backfill, right?
right, so that's the backfill. So that was
Is
that.
it, what, 5% of it?
Well, so they're phasing it out. It was the 10% difference between the 100% valuation and the 90% valuation, and they're phasing it out over 8 years. Yeah, so a little less than.
Whatever 10 divided by 8 is.
Okay.
So much a year.
Okay.
So that's a $31,000 decrease in tax revenues that we're going to get this year, just from the state. So overall, between residential, commercial, multi-residential, for general fund revenues, we're only looking looking at, when you take out that backfill, roughly a 250,000 increase from previous year. And that's just based on valuations increasing. So I just kind of wanted to give that background of, that's kind of where it's at. If you look at our city tax rate, it used to in fiscal year 14, 15, 16, and 17, we were at 13.5. We went down to 12.5 for 2 years, and then we've been at that 11.9. This will be the 4th year.
And we can run a surplus, and is that correct?
That is correct.
So we can run a surplus.
Yep.
All right.
So then as far as the workshop goes, you each should have received kind of a little bit of an outline. We'll just kind of work through that. That's how we've historically done in the past, I believe. So we'll kind of start with community services. So Steve Wick and Brian Bruns, you guys were on that committee. I don't know if you guys have any general overview or thoughts you want to say on that. Otherwise, we'll just kind of go through budget by budget and how we'll approach it.
Do you have a copy of that by chance? Because I know you sent it.
Yeah, we'll share.
Okay. Thank you very much.
While they're passing that out, Jacob, I had a revenue question.
Yes.
As I look at the, 9.4 million figure for general fund revenue, is there an estimate aspect to that, or is that a firm number? I just want to get a sense for, is there any plus or minus that, as the year unfolds, actually does happen with revenue?
There definitely is a plus or minus on that. The 6.1 of property tax revenue, that is set. That's based on our levy and the valuations, and so that's what we will receive for tax revenue.
Okay.
That state backfill, that is set now, how much we're gonna get each year as they phase that out. But then the other numbers are just estimates, so those can fluctuate.
So to give it a little bit of context, I guess, we're about 2% off as it stands now with 183,000 shortfall. Is that about right?
That sounds about right.
So that's not too bad. I mean, this isn't catastrophic. It's just going to require the massaging we're about to do.
Correct.
In other years, as I recall, it's been much worse than that.
Where do the transfers in come from on the revenue side?
So the transfers in of 963, 528, those are shown on page 8.
Okay.
And so it's made up of wastewater transfers in 298, 264, water transfers in 288, 264, landfill 55, hotel motel is 85 and 12. Those go to 2 different funds. Storm sewers 25, and then from road use tax 200 comes in,
Okay.
and that's what makes up that 96.
Is there any grant dollars that are referenced in the revenue that are anticipated but not, we don't know yet on?
The only ones that are in here that I can think of off the top of my head is in public facilities. There, of that 190, 100,000 is grant funds for if we do the tuck pointing on the theater.
Okay.
So you'll see $140,000 expense, that's offset by 100,000 of revenue, so net expense would be 40,000.
Do we see that anywhere, or it's just, because I see 140, but how can I know that there's 100 grand
grant on that?
There is a note on the 140.
On the public facilities budget?
Is it it should be in the
Yeah, it was in
category tab too. Should
Yeah, it's
also
in
have a note on
parentheses.
Well, I got several copies, so I probably made
Okay.
notes on multiple.
that. And it might not have been on the original.
And I'm probably missing it, to tell you the truth, so that's fine.
So if we lasered that out, we'd technically have to laser out another 100 revenue as well.
Correct,
Because
yeah.
we're not gonna,
Correct.
okay.
So you guys want to stick to this, you want to do community services first? Is that what you're saying?
That was the plan. I mean, if council has a different direction they want to go, but I think that's the outline we've used before, so I figured just as well work this year.
And Brad Epling, you're in here too. The art center has got some structural drainage issues off the roof, is that correct?
Yeah, the soffit area?
Yep, the soffit area, so I don't see anything in the budget for that. Do we want to?
Yeah,
It's in there.
Is it?
Yeah.
It is.
Art center software repairs, right here. You're right, you're right.
And then stairs are on there also.
Okay.
Okay, so I think we just jump into the culture and arts then. So that starts on page 37. This one, probably just kind of an explanation on it. In the past, we've done direct funding for local nonprofits. The state auditors come down with some new guidance. And so it's kind of changed some of the ways that we fund nonprofits, some of the requirements of what they have to document for if we fund them. So of the requests in here, some got moved to other budgets, some got cut out. I mean, Mike can mention a little bit more on the nonprofit stuff if he wants to.
Well, we're just gonna have to, you're probably gonna see, as we get into the next fiscal year, some agreements come through to you for some of these that we are funding, because we have to document what the public purpose is for the donation to the nonprofit. Some of them are gonna take the form of service agreements, and, you know, it's just gonna be more to come as we move forward.
Yeah, so you see what happened to what we typically fund. You'll look at the column on page 37 that Jacob put into, that's labeled after committee. So you can tell from the requested to that after committee column what changes were made. And then the note behind whether or not they got moved somewhere else or just outright got cut.
That's where the museum and the band would come in, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
Did anybody have any more questions on that one or anything they wanted to discuss on it? Okay.
I don't think so.
Okay. The next one we'll look at quick then is the economic development, and that's on page 71. So under this budget, we have some funding that goes to the chamber to help with their 15,000 goes directly to them kind of for operations and stuff. And then we also fund like the SOG grants downtown and challenge grants come out of here. And we also have a portion that goes to the LBIC out of this fund. And so the only thing I wanted to highlight or mention out of here was the LBIC funding. That is we do have a development agreement with them, subject to an annual appropriation. historically, well, last year was the first year we did it, and it was 200,000. Due to there not being a director over right there right now, we did reduce that down to 150. So,
Okay, let's talk about that for just a second. Before last year, we gave the LBIC $150,000 a year.
I think it was 91 the year before, so,
Okay, okay.
yeah.
But, and then last year we went up 50, correct? We increased our budget.
Last year we went to 200, yeah.
We went up 50. But they don't have a director now, and so all we've done is taken the 50 away. It would seem to me like we should take 100 away. Because it doesn't make sense to me. If we were 90 and we were 150, and last year we went the additional 50, but we lost the director, we lost the larger portion, not the small. You follow what I'm trying to say? So I'm thinking we should cut that a little bit more until they do find their direction, because right now that's where we're at with it, right?
Yeah, I don't know if Jason wants to speak to that anymore.
I'm trying to remember our conversation, Jacob. We took it down to what percentage did we shrink it? Was it,
25%.
I mean, we had a logical
Yeah.
reason for the amount we
Mhm.
shrunk it.
I think we kind of looked at the director's salary amounts and some of what was spent on operations.
So my point is,
That's where we,
is if we have a target of getting a director down the road, they can always come back to us and we can do an adjustment if it's needed, but I just don't see why we'd leave that amount in there if right now it's not in the category to be used.
But it's also up for further conversation, what the city's role is going to be with the employment of director, and is there an opportunity to improve our prospects with direct employment or not, and all that kind of stuff that we still need to have further discussion on. I don't want to box us into a corner by shaving the budget too close with this, and limit our ability to act if that's what we choose to do down the road.
That
I'm
actually
not
just,
sure how
go ahead.
to, no, that's it.
Well, that just actually kind of promotes what I'm saying, I think, because if we're looking at whether it's gonna be an LBIC position or a city position, I don't see leaving that money in there at this point. Just, and when something is, I'm not opposed to either direction. I'm just saying, I don't feel that we should just leave it in there. Seems hollow to me. I'm sorry, seems hollow to me. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
yeah, I mean, I don't think they're not completely ceasing operations just because they don't have a director. I think the board is taking a more active role in some of the things that are going on over there. And a portion of what we were given before wasn't just for operations, it was so that they could put some money in the bank so that they would have some money for purchasing land or doing different development stuff. So even if there's not somebody over there, it's not like the money is just disappeared.
Jacob, I understand that, but we're not paying a director's salary, okay? And they're still banking a pool of funds that they can deem usable, right?
Yeah.
They're getting the full 200,000 for the next 6 months without a director's salary. You know, I mean, they're getting the prorated.
From the past, or the current budget?
Yeah, right.
Okay, so that just, once again, makes my point.
That's what I agree.
You're pulling, I think we need to pull that back,
I'm okay with pulling it back.
and if it
So
needs.
we shrunk it to 25% is what we shrunk.
Yes,
it.
I think we should shrink it 50%.
I think
But
it's-
that would be my.
It would, I would say we go down to 100. And if they need it, we've always been very, very, very pro projects and everything else. It's not like we're not gonna listen to, requests,
Right,
and we can adjust if we need to.
yeah, we can.
Okay, so that would be my take on LBIC.
So you wanna pull that from
Anybody-
155 to 100?
To 100.
I mean, so we'll split it up proportionately between the two, right? I mean, it's,
So a portion of that is TIF funds and a portion of it is general funds. Wow.
does everybody think,
Does that make sense? I mean, I agree with it.
Yes.
Okay.
And just so you know, the game plan for the LBIC is probably an 8-month projection to hire somebody new.
Exactly.
So, I mean,
If that's the route.
I think this is fair.
Yep, that's where I'm at, that's where I'm at.
But it doesn't mean you're gonna be able to get away with it next year.
Right.
Oh, absolutely, we may have to,
Everybody needs to
we may
understand.
have to jump it up, and that's okay, Mike, but
Yeah.
I know there's talk of it being a city position, not an LBIC position, so that's all I wanna do.
There will be more clarity on that as we
Progress, absolutely.
you know, and this number, according to our agreement, is adjustable each year anyway.
Right. Okay. Okay. Enough.
So how much did you save?
Okay, so that saves the general fund, according to my calculation, 11,250.
Woo-hoo.
Because the rest is TIF.
The rest is TIF.
Okay, all right.
It's a start, Mike.
Hey, and just real briefly, Jacob, and this is for the benefit of everybody new, and myself, to be honest with you, does everybody understand TIF as well as we're able to understand TIF?
I was gonna ask.
But can you kind of give a brief on, real quick?
So we have a portion of the city where we want economic development to happen. And so it's mostly out on the south side of town. And so that's a designated TIF area. And so in that area, I can't remember what year we froze the base, but you freeze the tax base and then any growth on top of that, 100% of the taxes come directly to the city instead of being allocated out.